So I think that's why, and I did it. Look, I would have done it in other places as well. You know that I spoke before the American Congress when I thought there was an important message. President Macron of France spoke to the American Congress the other day. This is a very important subject which relates to our quest for peace and security in the Middle East and the world. And I thought it was important that the broadest audience possible would hear the dramatic findings that we found about Iran's secret nuclear weapons program.
The suggestion is that you wanted to make sure that President Trump heard it and heard it directly from you. The question is, well, what did you change with this information? As you pointed out, you spoke to different allies. Putin says the deal stands as it is. The UK says they're not naive on what is going on in Iran. Germany says there is landmark and robust monitoring. On the U.S. side, you had Secretary Mattis say that this deal was done in 2015, anticipating that Iran would try to be trying to cheat still. Michael Hayden, whom you know, the former head of the CIA and the NSA, says he didn't learn anything new. Even the U.S. statement from the White House changed from has to had, that Israel has an active nuclear program to had. And it seems to be that the message is, we knew this already.
Well, I think no one had better intelligence on Iran than Israel. And when we got this trove of 100,000 documents, we learned so many things that we didn't know. We're still learning them. You know, we needed to translate it from Farsi, all these documents, all these simulations, all this data, all this testing, everything, all these sites. We've learned an enormous amount about Iran's secret nuclear program. Now, the deal that everybody's talking about was premised on the fact that Iran had no such material. But Iran took enormous pains after the nuclear deal and before, but especially after, to hide this information. It's like an arsenal of knowledge. It's not just in the minds of people whom they have. It's the actual calculations that they've done, the blueprints, the measurements. They kept it hidden because they don't want the world to know what I showed yesterday, that they actually have this capability, a pretty advanced capability to manufacture nuclear weapons. Because I think if this was known in 2015, the nuclear deal as was done would not be done. And in fact, a key condition for its implementation was that Iran come clean, and it gave them a clean bill of health, that they have no secret nuclear weapons.
So
that's not true.
Mr. Prime Minister, how do you reconcile?
They kept it, and they're ready to use it.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, how do you reconcile that notion with what just came out from the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA? Of course, you know, but for the audience, that's the monitoring agency in place to secure the different precepts of the 2015 deal. They say they have no proof that Iran has done anything new. They date it as 2009, that, yes, you're right, this is what Iran was up to. This may be even what it wants to be up to, but that there is no new proof.
Well, first of all, there's an enormous amount of new information that we didn't know that shows how advanced they were in their bomb-making work. So that's the first thing. Second, if people knew this, then how could they close the file and say they never did anything like this? This was the condition for entering the deal. Third, I think it's crucial to understand that the nuclear deal right now that we're discussing is premised on the assumption that Iran will somehow become a peaceful country. It's not. It's become an empire that is devouring one country after the other, and that they're doing before they have nuclear weapons. This deal will give them unlimited enrichment of uranium, unlimited in a few years. President Trump said yesterday, 7 years, unlimited enrichment of uranium. Second, it doesn't address their ballistic missiles in which they could carry the bombs. And third, as I've just shown, they have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it. We could, if you put all these three things together, enriched uranium, bomb, missiles together, that's a prescription for catastrophe.
Right, but it works both ways, right?
It's important for me to put that forward.
But it works both ways, right?
Why
Mr. Prime Minister,
if you have a bad deal.
Well, the Secretary of Defense right now, Mattis, said we put this deal together assuming they would try to cheat. So it wasn't done assuming that they would change as a state actor, Iran. Nobody went into it with their eyes closed to that, that reality. But it's better than nothing, right? If there were no deal in place right now,
No,
you would
I
have
dis-
no
I
idea
disagree with
what
that.
was going on. And how would that make Israel safer? If by all accounts, Iran
I
has
disagree
slowed
with
or
that.
stopped what it was doing prior to the deal, how would you be safer without a deal?
There are many premises that are incorrect in your statement.
Please.
The first is we'd be better off. We're better off because we have this deal. No, you're not. Because this deal, the fact that you have a dangerous deal, the fact that Iran is keeping or not violating a dangerous deal doesn't make it less dangerous. It's completely flawed. It's based on lies. It's based on the fact that they hid the nuclear weapons program and knowledge that they stored up. They didn't come clean with it. And it's also based on the fact that Iran will somehow be a docile neighbor. That's not what's happening. The opposite has happened. I said from the start, look, if you want peace, if you want security, you should oppose that deal as structured. I said that. I said that Iran is not going to be more pacific, more moderate once you sign the deal. And it's exactly what has happened. Iran has done the very opposite. It's taken in the money, the billions, and it's using it to conquer Yemen, to fire rockets on Saudi Arabia, to colonize Syria militarily, to arm Hezbollah with the most dangerous missiles on earth, to call for Israel's annihilation, to spread its totalitarian wings throughout the Middle East, and to oppress its people inside Iran to boot. So the whole premise that this deal somehow guarantees a safer, more moderate Iran is wrong. This deal paves Iran's path to a nuclear arsenal. If you got rid of it, the first thing that would happen is you would crash Iran's money machine, in which it's pursuing its dreams of a conquest and empire. They're funding it with billions, tens of billions of dollars, their aggression throughout the region. And this deal facilitates it. If you take away the deal, they're going to be in a huge economic problem. Second thing, I think you have to insist that you actually dismantle the components that allow Iran to produce an arsenal of nuclear weapons. If you don't, and you do nothing, then I predict that what you'll do is head right into a wall. You'd head into a terrible conflict and perhaps a terrible war in which Iran would be armed with nuclear weapons. That's bad. If you want peace...
Well, it sounds like you're
this
suggesting
deal.
that that's the only course anyway. The way you outline the threat and the intentions of Iran, it seems as though you are indicating that you are on the precipice of war with this nation, because that's the only way that you'd be able to guarantee that you smash all of their capabilities and stop all of their evil outreach in the surrounding region, as you describe it. Is that what you mean? Are you prepared to go to war against Iran?
Well, nobody's seeking that kind of development. Iran is the one that's changing the rules in the region. Iran is the one that is practicing aggression against every country in the Middle East. Iran is firing rockets into the capitals of neighboring countries, and Iran is preparing 150,000 rockets to be fired in Israel with the explicit goal of annihilating us. Iran is also moving its army. That's its declared purpose, right next to the Golan Heights, right next to Israel. So Iran is obviously on a campaign of aggression. You know, I've learned something from history, and I think you have too. You know, when you have an aggressive, tyrannical regime with a murderous ideology, you know, stop it at the beginning. Don't let that tyranny grow and expand. Don't let that aggression conquer more and more territories.
Right.
So, yes, you have to take a stand. We take a stand. I think that's the way to prevent war. If history has taught us anything, it's that opposing such tyrannies and their aggression early on actually prevents catastrophe. And if you don't, you invite catastrophe.
So obviously, how you do that is going to be an open question, and it has very lethal implications. That's something that we'll have to see how it develops. The idea of disclosure. Iran won't tell the truth. We had to go in there, you know, is Israel's position, and steal this information so we can know the truth. Disclosure as an issue should work every way. The United States should say what it has. You know where I'm going with this. A yes-no question for you. Does Israel have nuclear capabilities and nuclear weapons? Yes or no?
We've always said that we won't be the first to introduce it, so we haven't introduced it.
But that's not an answer to the
we
question.
never
Do you
called for
have
the
them or do you not?
annihilation of any country. It's as good an answer as you're going to get. But I'll tell you one thing, Chris, and I think it's important. You know, Iran signed NPT. Iran signed all sorts of commitments. Iran said that they don't have this nuclear weapons program. And Iran calls daily for the annihilation of my country.
Absolutely.
We don't do that.
We understand that there is an existential threat from Iran and others. We understand that Iran is known for lying on this issue. That's one of the big motivating factors for the deal in 2015, as it was explained to us. But what I'm saying is, if disclosure matters so much, what message does it send when you won't confirm something that is widely believed by the entire international community? How does that inspire the spirit of disclosure?
I said that it's not the spirit of disclosure. It's a commitment, a specific written commitment by Iran as part of the deal to disclose what it has. Iran undertook that specific commitment.
I understand, but you know what their take on it is that you won't even confirm that you have nuclear weapons when the world already believes that you do. Why? Why keep that quiet?
Well, you can make all your assumptions. One thing is clear. Israel is not threatening the annihilation of any country. And you know, it's interesting that the nuclear arms race that I predicted would unfold once this deal was signed, because everybody knew that they were just kicking the can forward for a few years, and as time passes, Iran will get a nuclear arsenal. So now you hear other countries in the region saying, we want nuclear weapons too, or rather, we want unlimited enrichment, nuclear enrichment of uranium, the way Iran gave it. If Iran has it, why shouldn't we have it? So in fact, what this thing is doing, nobody said that about Israel. You may think about Israel what you want for decades. Nobody cared. But as soon as they understood that this regime in Tehran, this murderous terrorist regime that wants to conquer all of the Middle East and is sending its terrorist tentacles throughout the world, the minute they understood that it has a clear path to a nuclear arsenal, everybody now in the Middle East is trying to get their hands on nuclear weapons. Not a good idea. So if you want peace, the crucial thing is don't let Iran get a clear path to the bomb. That's what that deal does. And I think if you want to assure the peace and security of the Middle East and the world, you can't let that happen.
Listen, you make a lot of strong points about that. Obviously, less is the only direction to go with nuclear capabilities, not more. And your points about the risk that Iran poses in the region, let alone with its nuclear capabilities, are well known and echoed by many of your allies. My point was just that if what we want is for people to come clean about things, everybody should be open and honest, and it will create a different kind of pressure on what kind of dialogue is expected. But your points are well taken, Mr. Prime Minister. It's good to have you on the show, Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity.